Hi, folks. Joey Kelly here, editor of the Mainline Magazine, with an extremely special video for you today. Happy birthday, Bangor and Aroostook Railroad. 35 years later, or 135 today. Sort of. The actual incorporation of the railroad was back in February, but the railroad, for its 100th anniversary, decided to start its 2 month long birthday party in the end of June. Probably as a nod to the fact that it's much more pleasant to get out and do things in the summer than it is in the middle of February. What you're about to watch is a very special videotape. We believe it to have been put together by Bronson Communications, who had a relationship with the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad due to the 100th anniversary special videotape, which you're actually going to see clips of that in this video. This appears to be a professional recording of the kickoff celebration at Northern Main Junction. You're going to hear speeches from a variety of individuals connected to the railroad, including Faye Albert. And I'm mentioning Faye specifically. She was a Bangor and Aroostook employee for many years. You're going to hear her speak, but this tape came from her collection. I don't know how long she had it, possibly as long as all 35 years since it was shot. I don't know. But through her keeping it and through the folks that made me aware of this tape, we now are sharing it with you. So this is the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad's 100th anniversary kickoff at Northern Main Junction, June 29th, 1991. Thank you to Faye Albert for preserving this tape. Thank you to the folks who got it to me. Thank you to all the folks that have helped me convert it to a form that you can see. And be sure to hang out until the very end of the video, because in the end is some of the only footage known to exist of the inside of the museum at Northern Main Junction. Very little documentation of that has survived, at least that I've been made aware of. This is the only video I've ever seen. There is one programming note. At the very end, there's a montage of short shots. That montage has the music underneath of it by Lee Greenwood, which is God Bless the USA. That's copyrighted, and I've had to remove that music. Other than that, you're seeing the exact videotape as it was recorded in 1991. I don't know what the intention of this tape was either. There's no commercial breaks. There's no... I really don't know. I think it may have been purchased by the railroad purely to have documentation of the event. And this is, to my knowledge, the very first time this tape or its contents have ever been shared with the general public. So happy birthday, Bangor and Aroostook Railroad, 100 years old, 35 years ago, today.
On behalf of all Bangor and Aroostook employees, and looking over this crowd, I see a lot of them among you, I want to welcome you to the first day of the 2-month-long 100th birthday party for the railroad. We hope you have fun, and fun is what this day is all about. But we're also here to honor all those hardy men and women who opened up this great North Country and built this railroad. 100 years ago, they built more than 800 miles of railroad through swamps, across rivers, and through what had been pretty much a roadless wilderness. They did it with shovels, oxen, blasting powder, and sheer grit. By their efforts, they were also responsible for the development of the potato industry in Aroostook County and for the modern forest products industry as we know it today. Within 10 years of the opening of the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad, the valuation of Aroostook County had risen by 25%, and in 20 years it had doubled. But our celebration today isn't about industrial or agricultural growth. It's about people and a truly extraordinary human achievement of the past century. Looking at you, I see faces that have witnessed the struggles and triumphs of the last at least 50 years, and many of us have personal memories of the men and women who actually built this railroad. I personally knew Dick Sutton, who was one of the original builders, and I'm just a kid. As you walk through our little museum, I hope you'll just give a little bit of thought to who those people were and what they did. I'd also like to say this morning, a thank you for all the volunteers who made this day possible. They're employees, retirees, and friends of the railroad. And that last group is a rather large group, and I'm proud of it. Kathy Witham is a talented and generous singer and friend of the railroad. Joanne Butler is a longtime Bangor and Aroostook employee who's labored long and hard on our flagpole project. I'll ask Joanne to introduce the next segment of our program.
"1991 has been a year when we've seen a strong resurgence of patriotism due to our country's major role in the successful conclusion of the Persian Gulf War. It seems most appropriate, then, that this would be the year that the American flag would be raised to fly with pride over the Bangor and Aroostook's property here at our Northern Main Junction headquarters. As you are aware, 1991 marks the 100th anniversary of the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad, which of course is why we're here today. Our general offices were established at this location in 1974 with the opening of this office facility, and we've appreciated having such beautiful surroundings in which to work. A variety of special projects have been accomplished as part of our observance of this our centennial year, not the least of which was installation of this flagpole, beautification of the surrounding area, and the development of a centennial flag. So, it's with a great sense of patriotism, pride, and excitement that we raise the American flag and Bangor and Aroostook centennial flag to fly proudly from this day forward. Before the ceremonies begin, I'd like to identify the participants. The flags will be raised by train engineer Herb Buck of Old Town. Herb has 28 years service with the railroad and is a technical sergeant with the 101st Air National Guard unit assigned to Bangor. Kathy Witham is our soloist. She is a longtime resident of Herman, is a member and vocalist at the Herman Baptist Church, and is lead volunteer of the Herman Ambulance and Rescue Squad. Kathy will sing the national anthem after the flags are fully raised. Accompanying her at the organ is John Nickerson, also a resident of Herman. John, we've been enjoying your music earlier this morning, and thank you. John is organist at the Herman Baptist Church and is employed as a salesman at Knapp's Music Center in Bangor. The organ has been provided for us today, courtesy of Knapp's Music Center, and we thank them for that. Please stand now, if you will, and face the direction of the flagpole as our flags are presented.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the
we've prevailed on Dana Jewell, who's a longtime Augusta watcher and the manager of labor relations, to read the proclamation that the governor sent us. And I'll ask Dana to do that now.
Thank you. On February 13, 1991, Governor John McKernan declared a proclamation of the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad Day. This was his State of the Maine proclamation. Whereas Bangor and Aroostook opened the Aroostook County in northern Maine to markets of the United States and the world. And whereas Bangor and Aroostook Railroad was a catalyst that was responsible for the birth and growth of the potato industry. And whereas the railroad is a vital factor in the location of the great northern paper companies in Millinocket and the growth of northern Maine forest products industry. And whereas Bangor and Aroostook Railroad served the country's defense needs through 2 world wars, the Korean War and the Vietnam War with distinction. And whereas the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad represents the highest ideals of corporate citizenship, and whereas the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad was incorporated 100 years ago on February 13, 1891, and marks the beginning of the 2nd century of service to the people of Maine on that date. Now therefore I, John R. McKernan Jr., Governor of the State of Maine, do hereby proclaim February 13, 1991 as Bangor and Aroostook Railroad Day. Throughout the state of Maine, I urge all citizens to join the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad and its employees, the Maine Department of Transportation, the governments of Maine and the United States, and all those who depend on this vital rail system in observing this day as the beginning of the railroad's celebration of its 100th anniversary. In testimony whereof, I have caused the great seal of the state to be affixed, given under my hand in Augusta on the 12th day of February in the year of our Lord, 1991. John R. McKernan, Jr., Governor of the State of Maine. I'd like to present this to President Walter Travis for the Bangor and Aroostook and all its employees, both present and retired. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dana. If you run, you got my vote. Bangor and Aroostook has always had as a point of pride its citizenship in the towns that it serves. And we certainly hope that the railroad has always been a good neighbor for the town of Herman. The town of Herman certainly has contributed enough of its citizens as employees of the railroad. And we're certain that the town has been a good friend and supporter of the railroad, so it's a pleasure this morning to introduce Peggy Elmer, who's chairperson of the Herman Town Council. Ms. Elmer?
On behalf of the town of Herman, I'd like to present to Bangor and Aroostook Railroad this plaque which reads, Bangor and Aroostook Railroad 100th Anniversary. On behalf of the town of Herman, we wish to extend our sincere congratulations to Bangor and Aroostook Railroad for 100 years of service. We are proud to have your business located in our community. Continued good luck in the future. Mr. Travis, we look forward to the next 100 years.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Wayne Duplessis is a third-generation Bangor and Aroostook employee. If you see the videotape we've made, you'll see Wayne featured in it prominently. He was a locomotive engineer for over 40 years and cut his teeth in the cab of a steam engine. His father, Pearlie, was also a B&A engineer and courted Wayne's mother at Oakfield, where she was an employee of the B&A Inn. It's a railroad family. He has uncles who are B&A people. Please welcome Wayne Duplessis.
Buck DeMaine first appeared on the Bangor and Aroostook from Amoskeag in the year 1969. At that time, the railroad was facing some hard times. I don't mind saying the grass was growing between the rails in more than a few places. The interstate highway system was built into the county, and other carriers were dipping into our business and profits. The employees of the railroad were getting real concerned, not knowing where we were heading. Thank God for Buck DeMaine. These words have been said more than once, and I have never seen anyone challenge these words. Buck DeMaine was the best thing that ever happened to the B&A. Buck immediately put money into the roadbed, also our rolling stock. this was not Buck's first rodeo in dealing with railroads, as he had money in the railroads to the south. When asked why he would buy a railroad, meaning the B&A, that was not doing all that well, he would reply in saying, "I have faith in the company and the employees that run it." Buck had not been here very long when he started out making his rounds and meeting his employees. He shook hands with more employees than any president that I can ever remember. And when he shook your hand, he would always look you straight in the eye, and he would always say, "Thanks," and he really meant it. Walter Travis once said, Buck always had a natural ability to make friends with his employees. That he did. It made no difference with Buck what your job was. He wanted to meet you, look you straight in the eyes, and say thanks. He once said, and I quote, "Who provides the money for your gross income? It's not the president, not the vice president, but the employees." And so, Buck, on behalf of the employees of the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad, we would like to present you with this plaque that says, and I quote, "Dedicated to F.C. Buck DeMaine, Jr., in gratitude of his caring stewardship of the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad, erected by the B&A employees June 29, 1991, on the occasion of the railroad centennial." Buck, I hope these words will always stay in your mind and heart. The plaque is over by the flagpole on that big piece of granite over there that come from Mount Walto, which the B&A Railroad once serviced. Buck, being in the railroad business as long as you have, you are well aware of the good news and the bad news. And so I'm going to present you with some good news, Buck. The good news is that this flag belongs to you forever and ever. The bad news is that you cannot take it home to Boston. It is here to stay, where it is, we hope, for hundreds of years, long after everybody that's here today is gone from the face of this earth. Now, Buck, it is time for me, in behalf of the employees of the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad, to shake your hand, look you straight in the eye, and say, "Thanks, Buck, and God bless you."
Thank you. 100 years. I've been in the textile industry over 75. I started when I was 13, 1 week. I married the fourth daughter of a great woman 64 to 5 years ago. She's still sticking by me. I have a hunch there's something wrong up here. The problem with Amoskeag and its ownership, management doesn't seem want to grow. We had some changes. We'll have to have more changes if they don't grow, because you, the employees and their families, deserve a good, safe job. There's too damn much talk, written and seen on TV, of people getting paid too damn much money to run a company. There's too much talk about a recession. You are part of the recession, if there is one. Don't spend more money than you take in. If you borrow money, be damn sure you know how you're going to pay it off. I don't believe management understands that point deep enough. Curtis Hutchins was the most helpful man, decent guy, who had to sell his company because he got in the hands of Big Mouth, Salgo, Punta Relega. The director and one of the owners of Punta Relega was Bob Stone, president of Domains. Director, his father and my father, and the Windsors were all out to help. But your government has got out of line. Your businesses are not living within their income. The best part of Bangor is its employees. And they need better help. And that is getting more business. You can't buy health. You can't buy love, except in certain houses. The thing here is to grow. You're bringing up a family, and it looks to me as if a lot more young are coming. I hope Bangor management listens and acts and know where they're going. I'm deaf, but I still can see with false eyes. I can hear with false hearing. I'm wishing you the best of luck. The people that have retired in my time here, I just think they did one good job. I just hope you youngsters do a better job. Grow, be happy, be healthy, and help others. Good luck.
We think that you're in for a treat when you visit the museum today. And in dedicating the museum, we dedicate this museum to all of the men and women that have worked for the railroad for the past 100 years. And we hope that we can dedicate it to the men and women that will work for it for the next 100 years. Much preparation has gone into the museum, the displays, the exhibits, and hundreds of photographs are arranged in such a way that they depict 100 years of railroad history. In the other end of the museum, as you come out, you'll see a gift shop. Be sure to go in there and look over the merchandise.
I figured out there are 178 shopping days left until Christmas, so bring money. Linwood Littlefield, who's sometimes known as Mr. Herman, probably needs less introduction than anybody else on this platform. He started his 40-year career with Bangor and Aroostook as a clerk and retired a couple of years ago as senior vice president. He's been chairman of the excursion train project and has had a major share of the challenges that we've faced in planning and executing this celebration in the last 9 months. And I'd like to have Linwood talk a little bit about the passenger train project and today's excursion.
Today marks a culmination of a year of fun and work by a number of people under the overall supervision of one Dick Sprague. And if nobody else mentioned it, I want to say to Dick, to you, you've done a tremendous job. Dick and I have worked together for well over 30 years, and I know all of his talents, and he has many, many, and he's had to use him to keep this group of volunteers in tune most of the time. I know his patience has worn thin pretty much the last week, but hopefully Dick is all going to fall into place. The first meeting of this committee was held on July 3rd, 1990, almost a year ago to the day. And there have been numerous meetings, both official and unofficial, and many telephone calls. Of course, one of the first decisions that was made or discussed is that we ought to have some excursion trains every weekend commencing June 29th and running through the end of August. And I was asked to head up that committee because they couldn't find anybody else. Then came the work and the fun, because all we had when we started out was that diesel engine down there, and that was in retirement like all of the rest of us. Yeah. And they brought it out and painted it, but we had no passenger equipment, no insurance, nothing but an idea. And the first thing we had to do was decide how we was going to sell tickets. Originally we had the capacity of selling 4,600 tickets, and that was later increased. And so we set up an office right down there in that red brick building that you see down there, and we opened it up on weekdays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., staffed completely with retired railroad volunteers from Millnocket, from Medway, Bangor, all around. And we only put in one telephone, which we now know was our first mistake. Needless to say, the response was just overwhelming. That one telephone in that office down there never stopped ringing. And there were calls that went to the president's office and most everybody else that had an office in this building. I received them at home at nighttime in the evening pleading for tickets. Because of that demand, we originally planned on 4,600 passenger car seats. Later on, we've added 5 more trains, 4 out of Northern Main Junction and 1 out of Oakfield. And as of this moment, we have sold over 5,300 of the 5,500 tickets. We have about 200 tickets left, and that's 2 trains up north, 1 out of Fort Kent and 1 out of Fort Fairfield, and we hope we'll move them. As I said, I was a little hesitant to head up this excursion train thing, because the first thing we had to do was talk to the president about spending about $50,000 to obtain insurance and the passenger equipment. We hadn't even sold 1 ticket. So that's quite a concern to start out with. But I took that job knowing the worst thing I could do was fire me, and I'd already retired, so that didn't really matter. But I want to say seriously today, I'm just as proud as a peacock of what has happened. Not only the open house, but that passenger train. And it's going to be great fun to get on there at noon and make the first run. In closing, I'd like to ask one person to come up here. She doesn't even know about it, but Ronnie, would you bring Margaret up here? Whether she wants to or not, she's coming. I know you did. This is Mrs. Margaret Berry. She's the assistant to the treasurer and controller. And she's been the right arm of this whole ticket operation. Once the ticket is sold, she entered in a computer, she collected the money, she mailed out all of the tickets, besides doing our regular work. And I know that there were many nights that Margaret was here at 10, 11 o'clock, entering tickets, making sure they are mailed out. And Margaret, I just want to know that I appreciate the job that you have done. Thanks, Ed.
It's worth it. That was worth it.
Thanks an awful lot, Margaret. And the other thing, I want to see you dedicate this train to those other employees, both active and retired, who have helped me to make this a success it is. And finally, to those 5,300 people who have bought tickets. Thank you.
I would thank you both for your remarks and an absolutely superb job. I've known Marvin McBriety for 18 years, more or less, and called him friend for all of that time. I don't think it's any exaggeration to say that Marvin has an uncommon amount of persistence in his Irish personality. Matter of fact, some people have even suggested that he's mulish. especially when he's confronted with a challenge. He hates four-letter words, especially the word can't. And if you could have seen that magnificent engine when we started the restoration project, you would have understood the magnitude of the tasks that he faced when he agreed to chair the committee for the restoration of it. What you will see today is a result of the great work that Marvin and his committee did, and I'd like Marvin to speak to you about it. Marvin?
You know, Linwood, I wear a hat to keep this damn hair out of my eyes.
You're lucky.
Thanks, Dick. Now, some people have called it mulish. Charlie Burgess actually called me stubborn once. But actually, it isn't that at all. It's constancy of purpose. Hi, folks. I'm Marvin McBriarty. This elegant locomotive over here, the 502, is what I'm going to be talking about. It represents a strength and stick-to-itiveness, as well as a symbol of willingness to change with the times, because it went into B&A service at a steam to diesel juncture of American railroad history. The B&A employee has demonstrated these same traits over the past 100 years. And perhaps it has never been so important to do so as during these times. I feel a special kinship to the 502 because it was built in the same year that I was, 1947. But I don't really want anybody to compare how the 502 and I have fared over the years. Rather not hear it. This proud locomotive was refurbished and given a fresh coat of its original colors by volunteer employees of the B&A, both active and retired, and by some friends of the B&A as well. I spearheaded the project as Chief Mechanical Officer. I am proud to be the spokesman today at its dedication as a past B&A employee, still very loyal and dedicated to the beautiful people, many of which are here today, and it's awfully nice to see you, who are the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad Company. The 502, because of its unique style and beauty, is a rail fan's delight. Special thanks goes out to the fine people in the 470 Rail Fan Club for contributing the cash money needed for the paint products for its refurbishment. Thank you, folks of the 470 Club. Also, special thanks needs to go out to the Brotherhood of Railway Carmen, represented locally by Dick Martin and Ron Larson, for they gave us their blessing to go ahead and do this job, much of which was traditionally done by the Carmen's craft with volunteers. Thank you, Dick, Ron, and the rest of the Carmen on the B&A. There were more than 20 volunteers that worked on the project. I will not mention all because of the time constraints, though all the names are listed on a plate affixed in the cab of the unit. I will mention the names of 6 folks, however, who gave above and beyond in getting the job done in such an exemplary manner. Co-chairmen of the project were retired Derby car shop foreman and #1 wreck masters, both of them, John Walensky and Bernard Ricker. The bulk of the painting was done so skillfully by retired carman Henry Manistow. A constant working machine through all phases was retired Chief Mechanical Officer, and I'm proud to say my former boss, Harold Hansen. And finally, 2 active B&A employees who worked many hours on the project were Assistant Chief Mechanical Officer Ed Berry and Superintendent of Motive Power Paul Lewis. Let's give a hand to these men and all the others who worked so hard. Finally, it is my pleasure to dedicate this fine railroad locomotive freight hauling machine. To all Bangor and Aroostook Railroad Company employees, past, present, and future, and I take my hat off to all of us. Thank you very much.
I guess probably everybody has one or two people and they know in a lifetime who have a certain magic about them. They're the kind of people who can make things happen, motivate others. Faye Albert is this kind of a person. Her father was a long-time B&A cook on the B&B outfits, and Faye herself is a 30-year employee. She and a very effective and hard-working committee were responsible for all the events here today, as well as the replica of the Oakfield station and doing almost everything that other people forgot. I'd like to recognize Faye Albert this morning. Please welcome her.
I want to direct your attention to a delightful masterpiece, the parade float, which is right down to the edge here. The team is very proud of this project. Last October, when the Open House Committee organized and got together to share ideas for the centennial celebration and special projects, we decided on two. One, the flagpole, and the second one, the parade float. We wanted something that would create interest and enthusiasm in the ranks, and something that we could share with our friends in the towns and hamlets on our system. Several suggestions were considered, and we finally decided to make a replica of the Oakfield Station Museum, which was recently refurbished. The float was built at Derby Shops. 27 volunteers spent 10 Saturdays and many evenings working on the float. There are approximately 1,000 volunteers' hours expended on this project. It was scaled from the original plan here in our office. Through the ingenuity and cleverness of the chief engineer of the project, Cliff Fleming, most of the building was constructed from recycled materials. So we're right in style today. That's what's going on everywhere, is recycling. The trailer frame was donated by Cliff. 2x4s and 2x6s for framing were salvaged from the lumber reload operation here at Northern Main Junction. Clapboards were cut out of old crossing planks. Cedar shingles were cut out of old telegraph poles that had been on the property for years at our Derby shops. The window panes were cut from glass the boys found in the old glass shop at Derby, and it probably should be in our museum down here. It does have new paint, so that's the new thing about it. It is wired for sound, and you will hear all the nostalgic sounds of the old steam engine when you are in range of the station building. But the best part of the whole project was the sharing, camaraderie, and fun we had working together and listening to George Mossey's jokes. We all came home bone-tired at night, but with merry hearts. As a matter of fact, some of our folks are asking at this time if we might do another project next winter. We've really got to think about that. It was a much more ambitious project than anticipated, but with the enthusiasm and the commitment of everybody on the team, and the encouragement we received each week from Cliff Fleming, it was a great success. It was a lot of work, but well worth the effort when we saw the finished project. I want to express my heartfelt thanks to each member of the team, as well as the Open House Committee members for their support, enthusiasm, and commitment to our projects and the open house. Everything is here today and going as well as it has because of all of the support we have gotten as a committee, and we appreciate it. And last but not least, it's the support that you people have given us. Again, retirees, employees, and friends of the railroad. This is an exciting occasion for us, and we are so glad you came to share it with us. Thank you.
That was a great job, Faye. Thank you. Walter Travis really doesn't need any introduction. He's been a railroad man for over 40 years and president of the B&A during some of its most challenging years. It's largely through his efforts that we're here today. Walden?
Thank you, Dick. The program says that I'm to give the closing remarks, and I think that's wrong. This is just the beginning of a celebration that'll go on for the next 2 months and probably live in the hearts and the minds of the people who have been involved for the rest of their lives. It's clear to you, as it is to me now after listening to speakers, that this is not a business project. It's not a project of the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad. It's a project of the people, retired, presently active, and friends who put together this entire project for the celebration of our first 100 years. I couldn't possibly list all of the names of the hundreds of people that have been involved and the thousands and thousands of hours that have been put, but I think you got the message from listening to these other speakers. I just mentioned one, Dick Sprague, who has worked just as hard since his day of retirement as he ever did when he was employed, working with this group. His biggest problem, as I see it, was trying to hold down all of the suggestions and ideas and the enthusiasm that the people that were working with him, the volunteers work with him, had. And he's done a great job of putting it together. And in due time, I think that it's appropriate, it will be appropriate, and I want to be around when the company says thank you to all of those volunteers. Meanwhile, you must remember that this is part of their lives. They're trying to say to us, I'm proud, and they're very proud people, and they're telling us what the railroading has been about, the role that they've played. There's a videotape that I hope you'll have an opportunity to buy down at the museum that's about history, the history that the railroad has played and the people have played in it. It's about people, and it tells the story better, and will tell it for many years to come if you'll watch it. I'm proud to live in this part of the country and proud to be a friend of many of the people. And if I look out over here, I see a lot of retired folks, current employees, and I think it's a great privilege just to have the opportunity to be associated with you. And I want to say thanks to all of you for everything that's been done. It speaks well. The values that you bring to this project, the values that you bring to the job, are that which creates the values of our company. And we can all be proud, and I thank you very much.
Wake up and smell coffee if you want to be my girl. You've run around with Lester and you've run around with her. Well, this time I ain't fooling, you better hear my song. Wake up.
ceremonies this morning, Kathy Williams will sing God Bless the USA, and allow me to be sentimental for a minute and say God bless the B&A. Thank you.